My friends, how often have we told ourselves, I'll start when I feel ready, I'll do it when I feel motivated. We keep waiting for that spark, that magical burst of energy that will suddenly make everything easy. But here's a truth that most people never realize. Motivation doesn't just appear. Motivation is not a feeling that visits you, it's a habit that you create. Think about it. When a farmer wakes up before sunrise to plow his field, he's not always motivated. When a mother gets up night after night to care for her crying baby, she's not motivated. When an athlete runs miles every morning, in rain or heat, it's not because they feel like it. It's because they've trained themselves to move, regardless of feeling. We live in a world obsessed with emotions. We want to feel good before we do good. But life doesn't work that way. Action precedes emotion. You don't wait to feel inspired to act. You act first, and inspiration follows. Motivation is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The less you use it, the weaker it becomes. Every small step you take when you don't feel like it builds inner strength, resilience, and confidence. Success doesn't come from waiting for motivation. It comes from creating momentum. You see, motivation is temporary, but purpose is permanent. When you connect your actions to a higher purpose, something that truly matters to you, motivation stops being a visitor and becomes a resident in your life. So, stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect time, or the perfect plan. Take imperfect action now. Get up, start small, and stay consistent. Because when you start moving, life starts moving with you. The secret isn't to feel motivated before you act. It's to act until you feel motivated. Motivation is not something that appears from the sky like rain. It is something we create through deliberate action, through consistent effort, and through the courage to begin even when we do not feel like it. Many people spend their entire lives waiting for a right mood to start something meaningful. They tell themselves, I'll start when I feel ready, or I'll begin when I feel more inspired. But that feeling rarely comes. Motivation does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who move. It is not an emotion that knocks at your door. It is a decision that you make from within. When you choose to act despite laziness, fear, or hesitation, you awaken a source of inner energy that has been sleeping inside you all along. Think about the people who have achieved something great in life. They didn't wake up every day bursting with enthusiasm. They faced the same doubts, distractions, and exhaustion as everyone else. But what separated them from others was their decision to act when it was hardest to act. They showed up when their mind said, "Not today." That simple act of showing up is what created their motivation. Motivation follows movement, not the other way around. It is like lighting a fire. You don't wait for warmth to start the fire. You strike the match first. Once the flame appears, warmth follows naturally. Every time you push yourself to do something difficult, you send a message to your mind. I am in control. That message creates confidence. Confidence gives you energy, and energy becomes motivation in them. But it all starts with that small decision to take action, even when your feelings don't support you. Waiting for motivation gives power to your emotions. Creating motivation gives power to your will. One keeps you stagnant, and the other propels you forward. When you start relying on motivation to act, you become a prisoner of your mood. Some days you will feel excited, other days drained. And your productivity will swing like a pendulum. But when you learn to act regardless of mood, you discover a deeper strength. You realize that you don't need to feel like it to do something valuable. You just need to begin. The magic lies in beginning. Once you take the first step, momentum builds. Once you begin the task, your mind adjusts, your focus sharpens, and your energy grows. Motivation is a result of motion. Imagine pushing a heavy car. The first few seconds are the hardest because the car resists movement. But once it starts rolling, it becomes easier to keep it moving. Life is no different. The hardest part is to start. Once you begin, everything else follows naturally. The mistake most people make is waiting for that initial push to come from outside, when in reality, it can only come from within. When you take control of your actions, you stop being a victim of feelings. You become the creator of your destiny. True motivation is born out of commitment, not convenience. It is about doing what needs to be done, not what you feel like doing. The moment you stop waiting for the perfect time and start acting in the present moment, you step into power. You stop being a seeker of motivation and become a generator of it. And once you master that, there is no limit to how far you can go. Action has a mysterious power. It awakens energy that lies dormant within us. So often, people sit around waiting for a surge of inspiration to strike before they do something important. They say, when I feel motivated, I'll start exercising, or once I'm in the mood, I'll begin studying, or when I feel inspired, I'll take that step toward my dream. But life doesn't work that way. Feelings are fickle. They change like the weather. If we keep waiting for the perfect emotional state, we may wait forever. The truth is simple yet profound. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. Once you begin moving, the mind and body align. And that sense of motivation you are waiting for begins to flow naturally. When you take action, something chemical happens inside you. Scientists say that when we start doing something productive, even something small, the brain releases dopamine, the feel-good hormone. This isn't just a random rush of happiness. It's your brain rewarding you for movement, encouraging you to continue. The more you act, the more dopamine you generate, and the more motivated you become. This means motivation isn't the spark that starts the fire. It's the fire that grows when you strike the match. And that match is action. Think about the last time you didn't feel like doing something. Perhaps a workout, a project, or even cleaning your room. The hardest part wasn't the task itself. It was convincing yourself to start. But once you began, your energy started to rise. You found yourself moving with purpose, maybe even enjoying the process. That is how action creates emotion. It transforms hesitation into momentum. It converts fear into confidence, and it turns doubt into direction. Our mind is like a stubborn child. It resists effort until it is shown that effort feels rewarding. When you take that first step, you show your mind that progress feels better than procrastination. You teach it that movement brings satisfaction, not struggle. Over time, this habit rewires your thinking. You no longer wait for motivation to act. You act to feel motivated. You learn that feelings are followers, not leaders. The body leads, the mind follows. It's the same principle that athletes, artists, and achievers live by. A writer doesn't wait for inspiration to write. They start writing. And inspiration shows up along the way. A musician doesn't wait for the perfect mood to practice. They pick up their instrument, and soon passion awakens. Even a runner doesn't feel like running every morning, but once their feet hit the ground, the rhythm carries them forward. The secret of the successful is not that they are always inspired. It's that they start moving even when they are not. Action breaks inertia. When you are inactive, your thoughts grow heavier, doubts grow louder, and energy feels lower. But the moment you move, the energy shifts. The fog of hesitation clears, and clarity begins to form. That's why the first step is always the hardest, not because of difficulty, but because of inertia. Once you break that, everything else becomes easier. So if you ever find yourself waiting to feel ready, remember this truth: readiness is born in movement. Start small, one step, one page, one call, one decision. That small act of doing will awaken the feeling you've been waiting for. You don't need to feel inspired to begin. You need to begin to feel inspired. When you take action, life responds with energy. When you move forward, motivation joins you on the journey. The emotion you seek is not the starting point. It's the reward for starting. Discipline is what separates dreamers from doers. Many people rely on bursts of motivation to get things done. But motivation is like a spark. It burns bright for a moment and then fades away. Discipline, on the other hand, is the steady flame that keeps burning, no matter how strong the wind of circumstances blows. Motivation may get you started, but it is discipline that keeps you going when excitement disappears and challenges arise. It is the invisible strength that pushes you to act when your mind says, "Not today." When you are disciplined, you don't negotiate with your emotions. You don't ask yourself, "Do I feel like it?" You simply do what needs to be done. Discipline means showing up even when you're tired, uninspired, or discouraged. It's waking up early to work on your goals, even when the bed feels warm and comfortable. It's staying focused on your purpose when distractions are loud and tempting. Discipline transforms ordinary people into extraordinary achievers because it teaches them consistency, and consistency creates miracles over time. Think of an athlete training for a marathon. They don't rely on daily motivation to lace up their shoes. Some days their body aches. Some days they feel exhausted. But they train anyway because they have made a commitment to their goal. That commitment becomes stronger than their feelings. The same applies to every aspect of life: studies, work, health, relationships, or personal growth. If you wait for the right mood, you'll always be waiting in there. But if you discipline yourself to act regardless of mood, you'll always be progressing. Discipline is not punishment, it is self-respect. It is a way of telling yourself that your dreams matter enough to deserve consistent effort. Each time you follow through on your commitment, even in small ways, you strengthen your character. You start trusting yourself more because you know you can depend on your own word. That trust becomes inner confidence, a quiet belief that you can overcome anything. And once you build that belief, your need for external motivation starts to fade. The truth is, discipline doesn't always feel good in the beginning. It demands sacrifice. It requires you to say no to comfort and yes to growth. But the pain of discipline is temporary. The regret of inaction lasts forever. Every disciplined action today becomes the foundation of freedom tomorrow. The student who studies daily enjoys the freedom of opportunity later. The person who saves regularly enjoys the freedom of security later. The one who exercises consistently enjoys the freedom of health later. Discipline might look like restriction in the moment, but in reality, it is the highest form of empowerment. When you build discipline, you don't rely on temporary emotion, you rely on lasting structure. A disciplined person doesn't wait for motivation to strike. They have built routines that guide their actions automatically. It's like programming your mind to act without debate. Over time, discipline turns into a lifestyle. You no longer need to push yourself forcefully. It becomes part of who you are. Every great achievement is born from countless disciplined moments. Moments when no one was watching, no one was cheering, and no one was rewarding. But those silent efforts are what shape your destiny. Motivation will come and go, but discipline will carry you through storms, doubts, and delays. It is the bridge between dreams and reality. I wish, and I did. Discipline doesn't just create success, it creates strength, focus, and freedom. It's not about feeling ready, it's about being responsible. And once you choose discipline over mood, success is no longer a question of if. It's only a matter of when. Purpose is the force that gives direction to your energy and meaning to your effort. Without purpose, motivation becomes unstable. It rises and falls depending on the circumstances. But when your actions are connected to a purpose greater than yourself, your energy becomes steady and your willpower becomes unshakable. Purpose is what keeps you moving forward when everything else seems to push you back. It is the inner compass that reminds you why you started, even when the journey becomes difficult. When you know your why, you can endure almost anyhow. Many people chase motivation without understanding their purpose. They get excited for a few days and then lose interest when challenges appear. That's because their actions are not rooted in something meaningful. But when you have a clear sense of purpose, you don't depend on momentary excitement. You depend on meaning. You know that what you are doing matters, not just to you, but often to others as well. This gives you emotional fuel that no amount of temporary motivation can replace. Think of someone climbing a mountain. The climb is hard, the air is thin, and the path is steep. If they are climbing just for fun, they might quit halfway. But if they are climbing to raise a flag of hope for others, if they are climbing to honor someone they love, they will keep moving despite the pain. That's what purpose does. It gives strength to your struggle and dignity to your discipline. It turns pain into progress and obstacles into opportunities. Purpose also helps you stay focused. When life becomes noisy with distractions, purpose acts like an anchor that keeps you centered. You stop wasting energy on things that don't align with your vision. You become selective about where your time and attention go. Purpose doesn't just give you motivation, it gives you clarity. It helps you say no to what doesn't serve your goal so you can say yes to what truly matters. Another beautiful thing about living with purpose is that it makes even ordinary actions feel extraordinary. When your work is connected to something meaningful, it becomes more than a task. It becomes an act of devotion. A teacher doesn't just teach lessons, they shape lives. A doctor doesn't just treat patients, they restore hope. A parent doesn't just raise a child, they nurture a soul. When you see your actions through the lens of purpose, every effort becomes sacred. Purpose also protects you from burnout. When you work only for rewards, praise, or recognition, exhaustion arrives quickly. But when you work for a purpose, you find renewal even in difficulty. The work may be tiring, but the meaning behind it refreshes your spirit. You begin to see struggles not as punishments, but as preparations, as ways to grow stronger and more aligned with your mission. Purpose turns motivation from a fleeting feeling into a permanent flame. It becomes your internal source of strength, a steady light that guides you through darkness. It reminds you that your journey has meaning, your pain has value, and your actions have impact. You stop asking, "What do I feel like doing today?" and start asking, "What needs to be done to honor my purpose today?" That shift changes everything. When your life is driven by purpose, your energy becomes limitless, your perseverance becomes natural, and your motivation transforms into a lifelong companion. Consistency is one of the most powerful forces in life. It may seem simple, even ordinary, but it is the quiet strength behind every great success story. While many people chase quick results and overnight achievements, those who truly succeed understand that real progress comes from small, steady steps repeated day after day. Consistency is what turns small actions into massive results over time. It's not about doing one big thing perfectly. It's about doing small things faithfully. When you commit to being consistent, you build momentum, just like a wheel that starts to roll slowly but gathers speed with each turn. Consistency creates energy that pushes you forward. In the beginning, your efforts may feel invisible. You may see no change, no recognition, and no reward. But beneath the surface, something powerful is happening. Habits are forming, skills are sharpening, and strength is being built. Every small action compounds, and one day, all those little steps add up to something extraordinary. Think about how rivers carve through mountains. They don't do it in a day or a week. It's their continuous flow, their persistence, that shapes solid rock over time. The same principle applies to life. Whether it's learning, working, improving health, or building a dream, the power of consistency can transform anything. It's not about being the fastest, it's about being the one who never stops. Slow progress may not look impressive, but it's still progress, and it's far better than standing still. Consistency also builds trust, both with others and with yourself. When you show up regularly, people learn to rely on you. More importantly, you learn to rely on yourself. Each time you keep your promise to act, even when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your self-belief. You start thinking, if I could do it yesterday, I can do it today. This quiet confidence becomes your inner strength. It's not loud, but it's powerful. And it grows only through consistent effort. One of the biggest misconceptions about success is that it's built on massive bursts of effort. But the truth is, success is built on rhythm, not rush. The person who studies for 1 hour every day will achieve more in a year than someone who studies 12 hours in one day and then quits in the person who exercises for 20 minutes daily will be healthier than someone who works out for 3 hours once a month. Consistency turns effort into a lifestyle and lifestyle into results. Of course, being consistent is not easy. There will be days when enthusiasm disappears, when results seem far away, when doubts whisper in your ear. But those are the days that truly test your commitment. Consistency isn't about being perfect every day. It's about not giving up when it gets hard. Even if you fall, you stand up and continue. Missing one step doesn't ruin the journey. Quitting does. When you practice consistency, you learn patience. You stop demanding instant results because you start trusting the process. You realize that every small effort contributes to something greater, even if you can't see it yet. Patience turns frustration into focus. It teaches you to value progress over perfection. The beauty of consistency lies in its simplicity. It doesn't require talent, luck, or extraordinary skill. Anyone can be consistent, but only a few choose to be. And those who do eventually rise above the rest. Because while motivation fades and emotions change, consistency remains. It's the quiet engine that keeps you moving when everything else slows down. It's the discipline of showing up again and again until what once seemed impossible becomes natural. Over time, consistency transforms effort into excellence and dreams into reality. Your environment is like the soil in which your life grows. No matter how strong a seed is, it cannot flourish in poor soil. Similarly, no matter how determined you are, if you surround yourself with negativity, distractions, and discouragement, your growth will always be limited. The environment you live in, the people you associate with, the content you consume, the places you spend time in, all silently shape your mindset and motivation. You become what surrounds you. If your environment is full of energy, positivity, and purpose, your spirit rises to match it. But if it's filled with complaints, laziness, and excuses, even your strongest dreams can slowly fade. People often underestimate how much their surroundings affect their thinking. You can have great goals and strong intentions, but if you constantly hear, "It's too hard," or "You can't do it," those words start echoing in your mind. Over time, they begin to sound like your own thoughts. That's how an environment can either lift you or limit you. You need people who remind you of your potential, not your problems. Those who see your strength when you forget it yourself. Being around people who are passionate, disciplined, and hopeful makes you more likely to act the same way. Motivation is contagious, and so is laziness. Choose carefully what you catch. Creating a healthy environment doesn't always mean removing people. Sometimes it means changing how you interact. If you can't escape negativity entirely, you can still control how much space it takes in your heart. Don't allow every opinion to influence you. Protect your mental garden like a wise gardener protects delicate plants from weeds. Choose conversations that inspire growth. Choose company that makes you think higher, dream deeper, and live better. Your physical space also affects your state of mind. A cluttered room often leads to a cluttered mind. A clean, organized, and calm space creates mental clarity. The same goes for digital environments. What you read, watch, and listen to feeds your thoughts. If your social media is filled with comparison, drama, and gossip, it quietly drains your energy. But if it's filled with knowledge, encouragement, and wisdom, it strengthens you. Every piece of content you consume is either planting seeds of doubt or seeds of strength in your mind. Surround yourself with symbols of your goals, books that teach you, notes that remind you of your dreams, quotes that rekindle your fire. Even music can change your emotional state. The sounds, colors, and sights around you all have emotional weight. Imagine how a sunrise fills you with hope, while a dark, messy space makes you feel stuck. Your environment speaks to your subconscious. Make sure it speaks words of courage, not fear. The people who thrive in life are not always more talented. They are more intentional about their surroundings. They create environments that nurture discipline, focus, and peace. They spend time with mentors who challenge them, friends who support them, and communities that share their values. They design their spaces to serve their purpose, not sabotage it. Motivation grows naturally in an environment where effort is appreciated and growth is encouraged. When you take charge of your environment, you take charge of your energy. You can't always control what happens outside, but you can control what you allow inside. Your home, your mind, your heart. And once your surroundings reflect your vision, staying motivated no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes a natural rhythm, a quiet support that pushes you gently forward every day. The right environment doesn't just motivate you, it transforms you. Progress is the heartbeat of motivation. When you focus on progress instead of perfection, you allow yourself to move forward freely, without the weight of unrealistic expectations. Too many people delay their dreams because they are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect version of themselves. But perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist in real life. The more you chase perfection, the more paralyzed you become. Progress, on the other hand, is real. It's messy, imperfect, but powerful. Every small step forward counts, no matter how insignificant it may seem. When you choose progress over perfection, you free yourself from the fear of failure. You stop thinking, what if it doesn't work? And start thinking, at least I'm learning. That shift changes everything. It replaces anxiety with curiosity and pressure with persistence. Each small win, each lesson, and even each mistake becomes part of your growth. You begin to see that success isn't a sudden leap. It's a long walk made up of thousands of tiny, consistent steps. The joy of progress comes not from reaching the final goal, but from knowing you are becoming better with every effort. Perfection creates hesitation, but progress builds momentum. Imagine someone trying to learn to play the guitar. If they wait until they can play perfectly, they will never begin. But if they start with one chord, one song, and one practice session at a time, they'll improve day by day. Over time, those small efforts compound into mastery. Life works the same way. You don't need to take giant leaps, you just need to keep moving. Even if it's 1 inch at a time, every bit of movement forward is a victory. Progress also helps you build confidence. When you acknowledge your small achievements, you train your brain to notice success instead of failure. This builds a positive cycle of reinforcement. You start believing in yourself more because you can see evidence of improvement. Confidence doesn't come from waiting until you're perfect. It comes from seeing yourself improve through effort. It's about recognizing that who you were yesterday is not who you are today. Every bit of progress adds to your strength, skill, and self-belief. Another beauty of focusing on progress is that it keeps you grounded in the present. Perfectionists often live in the future, worrying about results, fearing mistakes, or imagining judgment. But when you embrace progress, you focus on the now. You pour your energy into what you can do today not what you failed to do yesterday or what might go wrong tomorrow. This mindset not only reduces stress, but also increases productivity because your attention is no longer divided by fear. Progress is also deeply motivating because it gives you visible results. Even a small improvement can spark a sense of pride and joy that fuels further effort. It's like climbing a staircase. Each step gives you a better view, more confidence, and greater motivation to climb higher. That's why celebrating small wins is so important. When you pause to recognize how far you've come, even if you're not yet where you want to be, you refill your emotional tank. The truth is, perfection often hides behind procrastination. People say they are waiting for the right time, but in reality, they are afraid to start imperfectly. Progress doesn't wait for the right time, it creates the right time. It invites movement, learning, and growth. Every great achievement in history began with imperfect action. The first draft of every book, the first sketch of every masterpiece, the first step of every journey, none of them were perfect, but they were progress. When you focus on progress, you stop fearing mistakes and start embracing movement. You learn that success is not about doing everything right. It's about not giving up when things go wrong. The one who keeps moving, even slowly, will always go further than the one who waits to start perfectly. Progress keeps you humble, hungry, and hopeful. And when you keep growing, you realize that perfection was never the goal. Becoming better every day was. Failure is one of life's greatest teachers, yet most people run from it as if it were an enemy. They see failure as a sign of weakness, a symbol of defeat or proof that they are not good enough. But failure is none of those things. Failure is feedback. It is the mirror that shows you what needs to change. The voice that whispers what can be improved, and the compass that points you in the right direction. Without failure, there can be no growth, no learning, and no true success. Every great achiever in history has walked through the door of failure before finding success on the other side. When we fail, we are given a choice, either to quit or to learn. Those who quit see failure as final. Those who learn see it as a beginning. The difference lies in perspective. Failure doesn't define you unless you let it. It's not a reflection of your worth, but a redirection toward wisdom. The most successful people in the world have failed more times than most have even tried. The difference is they used every fall as fuel for their next rise. They understood that each setback carries a hidden lesson, waiting to be discovered by those humble enough to look for it. Think of a child learning to walk. They stumble, fall, and cry, but they get up again. No one calls that child a failure because everyone knows falling is part of the process. Yet as adults, we forget this truth. We fear embarrassment, judgment, and rejection, and so we stop trying. But the moment you stop trying, you stop growing. Failure is not the end of the road. It's a bend in the road, a necessary curve that leads you closer to mastery. Every failure carries within it a seed of growth. It teaches resilience, patience, and humility. It strips away pride and replaces it with perspective. It reminds us that success is not about perfection, but perseverance. Each time you fail and rise again, your inner strength multiplies. You learn to handle pressure better, make wiser decisions, and trust your process more deeply. What once felt like a painful fall becomes a foundation for future success. Failure also keeps us grounded. It reminds us that we are still learning, still human, and still evolving. Without failure, success can easily inflate the ego, making us arrogant or complacent. Failure humbles us in the best way possible. It forces us to reflect, to adjust, and to grow. It turns pride into progress. It is not a punishment, but a preparation. Every setback strengthens the muscles of perseverance. The most inspiring part of failure is that it often precedes breakthroughs. Many inventors, artists, and leaders faced rejection after rejection before achieving their defining success. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. When asked about his failures, he said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That mindset is what transforms failure into power. The refusal to be defined by defeat. The truth is, failure is not the opposite of success, it's the pathway to it. Success is built on the lessons of failure. Every mistake teaches you something about yourself, your strategy, or your vision. The only real failure is the failure to learn. When you see each setback as an opportunity to grow, your fear of failing begins to fade. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you start asking, "What will I learn if I do?" That shift changes everything. Failure becomes motivation. When you see it as progress in disguise, it reminds you that you are trying, that you are daring, that you are alive. The pain of failure may sting for a while, but the wisdom it leaves lasts a lifetime. Every scar becomes a story of strength. Every disappointment a step toward discovery. When you stop running from failure and start learning from it, you no longer fear it. You use it. And when you use failure as fuel, even your setbacks will move you forward.